Hello and welcome to episode 4.5 of the Long Islanders podcast. This is both our championship series recap show as well as our World Series preview. Before we get any further with this camera, we're going to go to the other camera with this format. Say hi, Vin.
Hi, Vin.
And that is the start of our show, folks. So without any further ado, Vin, let's get into the games.
All right. So I thought you were going to ask me what we're actually going to talk about. So I wasn't prepared. So
baseball.
Oh, well, good. I wish I was prepared. So let's talk about the NLDS because that actually had a game 7, which I was pumped for.
You mean NLCS, not the DS?
Yeah, sure. That one too. You can talk about that one instead. I like the NLCS a little better.
That's what we're talking about, Vin.
All right. So we had wow, I almost said Rockies. Wow, I was not prepared for this at all. So we had the Brewers and the Dodgers go to game 7. Obviously, we ended the Brew Crew season because we are bad people by wanting them to win because we are not allowed to get what we want.
Go ahead.
No, I was just going to keep going, so I didn't have much.
I mean, watching this series, I was really disappointed. I really wanted the Brewers to win. I think Craig Counsell did a really good job for most of it. He had a couple of questionable calls, but no matter what you can say about his performance, he was not as questionable as Dave Roberts was. I have absolutely no idea what Dave Roberts is doing as a manager right now. But, I mean, I could rant about this for a while, but how are you going to take out your first baseman in the second inning? Like David Freese, you take him out when he's doing well. Brian Dozier, your only true second baseman. You're going to take out players who are doing well and put them in for a young stud. I don't understand what the plan is here. Somehow it's working for him. I think he's getting lucky. I think he made a lot of bad calls and is winning just because of the sheer talent that's on his team that they've brought for him. Because honestly, I think my biggest, most questionable one was actually in that game 7, putting Kike Hernandez in to lead off because he's had an absolutely terrible series. They ended up winning because of Puig hitting that absolute monster grand slam.
Yeah, 3-run.
Yeah. Oh, that's right. It was a 3-run, not a grand slam. But either way, it was a back-breaking home run that really just set the tone. And I think once you saw that, you just knew that the Dodgers were going to the World Series. I hated to see it, but honestly, that was the end of the game.
All right, Foley, your turn.
Okay, so, I mean, the Brewers obviously played their hearts out, forcing a game 7 with their backs against the wall there. One thing that really surprised me about the whole series was Christian Yelich. He was the MVP for the regular season, but this postseason, he just looked. He wasn't getting the regular help he did, and he just didn't look himself. He's definitely gonna have to perform in the future. But the Dodgers got lucky. I think. I'll agree with John there. I think they got lucky. It's going to be tough moving forward with Dave Roberts as their manager. He makes a lot of questionable calls in the regular season, especially in the postseason. And I think another big story is Manny Machado. Is Manny Machado even going to be able to play in any game before he gets ejected and suspended? Because he, with that one trip that he had on Aguilar, he tried to injure Aguilar. Yeah, that was just dirty as all hell. And I don't appreciate that. Yeah. As a big baseball fan, I just think that's really bad for the sport. And did you see the Onion article where it's like Manny Machado takes dirty slide into the pitcher's mound?
No, I didn't see that.
He claims he's not a dirty player after a hard slide into the pitcher's mound.
I mean, if there's one thing I think this series showed, it's that Dodgers middle infielders continue to be dirty, going around the bases. Chase Utley a few years ago, everyone thought that was the worst thing. But somehow Manny Machado has come in and shown that he's even dirtier and even worse of a human being. The fact, you had the stuff with him not running down first base and hustling. He ends up showing that didn't matter by hustling throughout the rest of the series. But he just showed that he's not a good person. He kept trying to injure people. The way he was treating everything. I feel like this Dodgers team doesn't have respect for the game or for other players. And I think because of that, a lot of people aren't going to like him. And furthermore, I think it's why Manny Machado is a perfect fit for the New York Yankees organization.
Well, that was a little bit of a cheap shot there. But
you're welcome.
I did.
Oh, hang on. I do
okay.
credit to A-Rod for what he said about the whole Manny Machado incident.
Yeah.
Because I've been very critical of A-Rod for a lot of time. Don't get me wrong, he's an absolute phenomenal player, and steroids are one thing. I didn't really care about it. But what A-Rod said was, he if you remember the tomahawk chop, he said a lot of people remember that. I feel bad about it. It was insensitive. But I can go to sleep at night knowing that I've never tried to intentionally injure another player. And honestly, I think that was a great statement to make because what Manny Machado is doing is it's reckless. And I think he's been a dirty player for a while, and no one saw it because he's been playing in Baltimore, and like that's not even anything anymore.
Yeah.
So I honestly think going into the series against Boston, who he's had a lot of issues with over the years, I think this could end up being his worst nightmare. Because if I'm the Red Sox, I'm throwing at the guy. I'm trying to get him ejected from the series.
You see, you don't like Machado. I think I gained more love for Machado this series.
I didn't. I absolutely like John can attest to it. I was here when that happened, watching the game, and as soon as that happened, I was like, I don't want him at all. Especially when he said I'm not gonna hustle, like that's not who I am. Can we imagine if Gary Sanchez said that after the Tampa Bay game this season? Can we just imagine that he said that?
Well, Gary had a hamstring issue at that point, so I think that was more of a concern. But yes, I understand. I understand what you're going at.
Yeah. So I don't want Manny Machado on this team taking our money, our $40 million a year, to be a dirty player, not give his all. And I mean, you have to think, shouldn't somebody be telling him not to say this because he is like looking for a new free agent contract? Like if I'm any team, doesn't that raise some questions for you?
It doesn't matter.
Yeah, it doesn't matter. He's getting whatever he's getting.
He's going to be available in years.
I know.
So there's still going to be 5 teams, including both of ours, that offer him $40 million.
Yeah.
And you know what? He's going to sign one of those deals. He's going to continue to be just I think he's a locker room hurt to your culture. If I'm the Yankees, I don't want that kind of person in my culture because you look at what they've built. It's a fun team, a lot of young guys. Having that kind of attitude come in, I think could really hurt their depth and hurt the way that they look at the game when you're trying to instill a sense of respect and just hustle. I mean, honestly, that's all it is.
Well, with the hustle thing, I think it's a little hypocritical of Foley to say he doesn't like that because we had Robbie Cano for a while that just would walk out of the box for.
You know why it's not hypocritical? Because Justin doesn't like Robinson Cano either.
I don't. I've said this in the past. Yes, he's a great player for what he's getting, but what he asked for with his new contract that the Mariners stupidly gave him was ridiculous. And I have said from the beginning, the Yankees do not need to re-sign him. Just look at how it turned out. We ended up getting Gleyber Torres as a replacement for him. I'd rather have Gleyber Torres 11 times out of 10 given the same opportunity. I mean, yeah, he helped us. He was on the World Series team, right?
Yeah, he was. But,
it was
before we turn this into a Yankee podcast, which we're not because our team isn't in there.
Yeah, your team didn't even make it this far, so let's get on to the other series.
No, whoa. Hold on. I want to get my Machado side. Okay, I respect Machado because in varsity baseball, I would do that run into the first baseman trick about once a series, and it was to the point that Coach Bennett would tell me to stop.
And you know what that means? That means you're a dirty player, and I hate you.
Well, I did bat 300 every year in varsity. But
you know,
I did break the strikeout record though as a batter. Yeah,
because you have a receding hair, 18 years old.
Okay, well that was just rude. I'm glad the audio cut out there a little bit. But one thing I did I like this whole dynamic with Machado and Puig. Just how they're just so dynamic on the field.
Yeah. I like Puig. Puig's had a lot of things that he's done throughout his career, but you know, the difference is when Puig has this stuff, Puig doesn't do that. He doesn't try that dirty no-name trick. He'll just try to punch you in the face.
He'll lick his bat too, which I find hysterical.
Yeah,
that's entertaining.
That's why I have no problem with what Puig does, because Puig he's earned this. Like, if he has this issue, he's not going to cry to the media and say, oh, well, screw that guy. No, he's going to be like, yeah, I want to fight him. And he's going to try and fight him. Like, you saw what happened this year against the Giants when he was trying to fight everyone.
All right, and just a quick few points on the Brewers side. I think if the Brewers want to go with an opener, Josh Hader could show that he could go good length. And if they choose to go an opener, they could totally do it with him.
I think the only reason they really did that was because of the fact that they only had one good starter. But the problem was Chacin, he pitched phenomenal this whole playoffs. He pitched great in that 163. I think there was a time when, everything was going to fall apart. And unfortunately, this was the time.
Yeah.
I think Jeffress he showed that he's not ready for prime time because I couldn't tell. Like, every time I've watched the Brewers, I've been like, oh, God, you're putting in Jeffress again? He just hasn't looked good. So, honestly, I know why they didn't keep Hader in for another inning. But it's a real shame that he couldn't pitch another one because I think that doesn't happen. Because I think that home run was the backbreaker. I think if they could have gotten out of it, still being 2-1, I think they might have been able to come back. But
see, I disagree with you there. As soon as Chris Taylor made that catch and left, I said, all right, this game is over. That's when I thought it was.
I mean, I felt the same way, but, a 2-1 lead, that's never safe.
Mm-hmm.
Kenley Jansen has had some miraculously bad moments before, that if that was a 2-1 game, you never know what could happen. I agree with you. That Chris Taylor play, I think, might have even been bigger than the home run, which sounds crazy to say, but I totally agree with you. But if we're going to be talking about great catches, then we got to talk about one of the best catches I've ever seen going into that Red Sox versus Astros Game 5.
Oh, my God. Right against the wall.
I swore that hit the wall, but then because of the loud pop.
Wait, which one?
I know, and I was going with the Benintendi in my head too.
Yeah,
so I understood where you were going, John.
That's not even where I was going, bud.
I was going with the Astros catch. I forget his name.
Yeah, that was Tony Kemp made that great jumping catch, but no, that was not the home run. That's not the catch I was going with because that was absolutely a great one.
It's amazing that we can think of how many great catches were in this series.
The Astros are just so good defensively that
but no play has been bigger this entire postseason than that Andrew Benintendi catch. Like, if he doesn't make that catch, the game's over. And I think they still win the series, but that was an absolutely phenomenal play. I was sitting here watching. He just saved Craig Kimbrell's job, in my opinion, because I think Kimbrell was about to lose everything if that scores runs.
Yeah, he melted down this entire postseason.
He's been awful. I think he's done. I think he's a free agent after this year.
Yeah, he is.
So I don't think they resign him.
Well, if he has a good World Series, I think he has a chance.
I don't think he will.
I don't think with the Red Sox payroll that they should pay for Craig Kimbrell at this point. But that's just my opinion. That might just be a little Yankee bias there.
No, I agree with it. I mean, like, their payroll is already super high. Like, why re-sign Kimbrell when you could get probably another good closer?
There's so many better options than having Kimbrell, who's just shown that he can't be reliable when it matters most. I mean, they could bring in Familia. They could bring in Britton. There's so many options this offseason that they could bring in to be their new closer.
Yeah. Well, they did try to get Britton on the trade deadline.
And exactly.
Now that he's a free agent.
Because I think what happens is if Britton gets traded to the Red Sox instead of the Yankees, he is the ninth inning guy. Like, you looked at the Yankees, he was the eighth inning guy. But I think on the Red Sox, they knew that Kimbrell would be designated then one peg lower because he just doesn't have it.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then one other player who I wanted to highlight, the guy's only in the game because of defense, and Jackie Bradley Jr. had himself a series.
That was phenomenal. I mean, I think JBJ showed, in my opinion, that the Red Sox have the best outfield in all of baseball right now because Mookie Betts by far, as a whole, not best outfielder, as a whole, as a unit. Because Mookie Betts, obviously, what more is there to say? The dude's probably going to win the MVP. His only competition is Mike Trout. Benintendi has looked absolutely fantastic. I love watching the guy play. He's so dynamic.
Yeah.
He plays great defense, especially in somewhere where it's hard to play in left field, like Boston. Like, that's a complicated place to play if you don't know how. Yeah. And he's really shown that he does. And he looked great in Houston with some of those weird plays that he ended up having to make, running in to make that catch especially. And you look at JBJ. He's always been phenomenal defensively. He always makes a great catch. He's fast. He can steal. And he's got a cannon of an arm that I feel like we don't get to see enough of. Like, you look at a lot of center fielders out there. Like, you look at Trout. You look at Ramon on the Athletics, who had that amazing throw to first. JBJ, his arm is good. Everything about him is so good. You look at him and you're like, does he know how to hit a lot of the time? That's why he's batting ninth. But he showed in this series that his clutch hitting is absolutely there. He was, in my opinion, the best player in this series, which sounds he's the reason they won, in my opinion.
Now to jump a little bit, this might be more of a World Series type of question, but this whole story about Chris Sale and his going to the hospital for his stomach, I don't know how true this was, the whole belly button ring.
So it's fake. The entire Boston Red Sox team was in on the joke. It's at the point now.
Chris Sale just hates reporters.
Yeah.
Well, I know he does. That's why I didn't believe it.
Honestly,
but I haven't really looked into it, to be honest.
Honestly, I didn't believe it for a second. Like,
I mean, they announced he had the flu, or like a flu-like illness. So he was in the hospital, and then he comes back and he's fine, and then he just says, "Oh yeah, belly button." I read that and I was like, "Oh yeah, like that's the most Chris Sale thing he would ever say in his life." And now we're just moving on.
Exactly.
Like, that's it.
I wouldn't doubt that from like a drunk Chris Sale. Just say, let's get my belly button pierced tonight.
I mean, yeah, but I feel like the dude's smart enough that because it's not just that he got a belly button pierced. He said that he already had the piercing and that the irritation came from taking it in and out so many times. And I think, like, obviously he was joking, but if we're going to be talking about piercings at all, we need to talk about what Ian Kinsler said, because that, in my opinion, was the best part of the whole thing. Ian Kinsler said that if the Boston Red Sox win the World Series in honor of Chris Sale, he's going to get his nipple pierced.
Oh, what a man.
Let's talk about how he's going to do that.
Well, wait, before you even talk about that, no. Which nipple would you prefer him to get pierced?
I don't know. That's the weirdest question.
Left, totally.
He probably wanted to be his non-dominant hand or his non-dominant side.
Yeah. So he's gonna go to left.
It's dangerous because if he takes a ball across the chest, that could rip off the whole thing.
Okay, guys, we both know he's not actually going to do this. So can we move on to the actual World Series now, please?
All right. So we have a battle of pitchers. Well, actually, they're not battling. So we have Kershaw versus Sale, game one.
Yeah, first time in, I believe, 200 starts or so that Kershaw is actually the underdog going in, because the Red Sox are favored to win the game. So I think that's crazy. I don't think Kershaw was expecting that, but I certainly agree with it. Regardless of the pitching matchup, I think the Red Sox should just have a manager and home field advantage in both of those. Like, the Dodgers may have more talent, but I think the Red Sox at home are just so dangerous. Even though they've played better on the road than they have at home, I think they can certainly win this game. I think, with the bats that they just have so many smart hitters. Like, you look at the just top three, you got Mookie, Benintendi, and JD. All three of those guys are smart. All three of those guys know how to hit. You know what they're going to do, but the X factor is always those guys you don't expect, like Brock Holt or Jackie Bradley Jr. When those guys are hitting the way that they were hitting in the last series, the way that they've hit this whole postseason, if they can keep doing that, I think this is going to be a great series, and I think it's going to be very competitive. And that's why, you look at these two teams. The Red Sox have, you look at them and you want to say that they're so stacked, but when you look at the actual two rosters, they really aren't in comparison. Like, the Dodgers have just so many great players. They have an all-star at almost every position at one time. That player has been an all-star. And then you look at the Red Sox, and they have a lot of really good players, but they don't have that. Like, Devers is their third baseman. You're not going to take him over Justin Turner. You're not going to take Bogarts over Machado. You're not going to take Brock Holt over Brian Dozier. You're probably not taking David Freese or Max. Well, yeah, there's the advantage. David Freese or Max Muncy over whoever the Red Sox decide to put at first that day.
Yeah, because Steve Pearce is just killing it since he joined the Sox for the Jays.
I mean, honestly, the Red Sox, I think that if they do lose this series, I think this is going to be where they miss Hanley Ramirez the most.
Oh, 100%. I mean, I'm still surprised that they didn't even – I mean, yes, they got Steve Pearce, but Steve Pearce is not a Hanley-type player.
Yeah. The
Hanley just means so much to them. I'm
I
surprised that they didn't even try and, like, really get a real Hanley replacement because that
honestly,
first part of the season, he was there. He was one of their big
I would have
guys.
brought him back because he really didn't do anything wrong. I honestly don't understand why they got rid of him. I think he would be such a big help to have on the team right now.
Mm-hmm.
I think they're going to miss him in this series, honestly. I think they've made it this far without him, but this could be when it finally hits them that they need that guy.
Yeah. I mean, you always need you always need like a power bat. And I believe Hanley was a lefty. He's a lefty bat, right?
I think so.
That's always good to have at Fenway.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, I mean, we'll see how the series shakes out. Maybe not having a Hanley could affect them in some way. But, I mean, they still had 108 wins for a reason.
Yeah, exactly.
So.
But would they have had 112?
Maybe.
Anyway.
So I didn't want to interrupt in that whole thought process there that you guys were going on. So basically, what I'm trying to think of, who's going to have the bigger meltdown this series, David Price or Clayton Kershaw? Because as you guys know, I am not a Kershaw fan.
Yeah, so Ben, why don't you go first?
Okay, so as the fact that I'm not a Kershaw fan, I'm going to go Kershaw, which is a little surprising because I know David Price and everything, how he got a standing ovation for pitching, 4 innings at one point, 5 innings maybe it was.
I mean, at that point, it was good for him because postseason Kershaw was awful.
No, Price.
We're talking about Price.
Oh, yeah. Him too.
I don't know. I think in Boston, I don't know if Kershaw is going to be very effective.
I think you're right, Vin. I think being in Boston is really going to hurt him in this first start. I think if Boston comes out hot with their bats swinging, I think they could knock him out early. And if they have to go to that bullpen, it has not looked great in my opinion. The Dodgers bullpen has looked very suspect to me. Urias has come in. He's done surprisingly well for such a young age. But I don't know how that goes in a Boston crowd.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, Boston crowds are a lot different than most crowds that LA got used to on the West Coast.
Exactly. They played in a division where a lot of teams, their fans just don't show up.
I mean, and no disrespect to the Brewers or anything, but that's just a whole nother level from Boston.
100%.
Playing in Fenway is totally different than playing pretty much anywhere else.
Yeah.
But to answer the question, I think we should go to Justin next. Who's going to have a bigger meltdown in the series, Kershaw or Price?
Ooh, that's interesting.
Well, you had a little while to prepare, so you shouldn't.
Yeah, no, I know.
Be that scared.
I mean, I see them both as two very different pitchers. I see David Price as one that's going to attack you with his fastball and then use some off speed in the later pitches of the at-bat to try and just trick you and get you swinging out. Kershaw comes at you with that disgusting curveball that he has. He'll throw it to you 3 times in a row, and he has no cares. But I think it's tough. If David Price is down, if the Dodgers win game 1 and David Price is down 1, and that falls on his shoulders like, oh, crap, I have to win this game, he might melt down. But other than that, I could see Kershaw having a meltdown too. You don't know because they both performed relatively well.
Well, Vin is saying that Kershaw is going to melt down more, so I'm going to need you to pick one, bud.
Now I'll go Price.
All right. Well, I actually think I'm going to have to agree with Vin here. I think it's going to be Kershaw because of the scenario that we're facing. With Kershaw starting game 1 in Boston, I think that really hurts him. If he was starting in LA, I don't know if I'd feel the same way. Yeah. But because of the fact that he's starting in Boston, like you said, he goes with his curveball. He's very off-speed based. I don't think that affects the Red Sox hitters as much as it would affect the Brewers hitters. Because I think with JD Martinez, he'll hit anything you throw at him. He's such a smart batter, so to speak, that he can hit any pitch. If you give him one over the plate, he can take it over that green monster like it's nothing. So I'm going to have to go with Kershaw. I think David Price actually has a chance to pitch really well in this series. David Price has looked suspect in the postseason for a lot of his career. Maybe he's finally found a groove, but the reason I think he could end up doing well is when you look at David Price, usually when he starts to have those like really bad meltdowns, it's when he faces a guy for a second time, right? It's usually not the first at bat that a guy has against him. So for that reason, I think this facing the Dodgers is a perfect scenario because of the fact that Dave Roberts likes to take his players out after one at bat. So in my opinion, David Price could end up having a good series by the fact that, let's say, he faces David Freese and it's a tough at bat. Doesn't matter because he's coming out in the next inning to face Max Muncy. So I think David Price actually has a chance to do well. He might not, but I think it's such a good story. I'm really happy for David Price. I've never hated the guy. I haven't trusted him. I'm not putting a lot of trust in him, but I just think it'd be such a great story if he's able to come in and help Boston win this series after everything he's had to go through. Red Sox fans this whole season have been critical of him the past few seasons. But you know who stuck by David Price this entire time?
Tom Rosenfeld.
Tom Rosenfeld. This is a shout out to you, bud, because there is no bigger David Price fan.
I hope he actually listens to this. You give him shout outs every time.
We're going to make him listen to this.
He's going to listen to this, man. You know why? Because there is no bigger David Price supporter. Nobody. Say what you want about Tom, but you cannot question his love of David Price. So I have to shout him out for this because he is the biggest Red Sox fan I know. And I feel so happy for Boston that they've been able to get here. And he's earned the right. He should be happy. Boston should be happy. And, without any further ado of the analysis, let's get on to who we think is going to win and how many games it's going to take them.
Well, right before you get to that, it's not going to be long, so don't worry. Last year, Kershaw in the World Series, 3 games, 2 starts, 15 2/3 innings, 4.02 ERA.
Okay.
So he did pitch okay. I wouldn't say that's very great, but again,
15 innings and 3 starts. Well, in
2 starts and another appearance.
It's not bad. It's just I don't think, like you saw it against the Brewers, he was able to do pretty well. But I personally love the Brewers. But a lot of their guys, every time they came up to the plate, they were going, "I'm going to hit a home run," and that just doesn't work. That didn't work. So I think it's going to be very different coming into Boston, having to face a team where they're a lot smarter coming up to the plate. They're not thinking every time home run. They're thinking home run a lot of the time, but they're also thinking, we want to win. We're going to play it by the situation. And I think that's a big advantage.
All right, yeah, so just quickly before we go, let's hear World Series predictions and MVP. So in case for you guys that don't know, as I'm scrolling through this, right now Chris Sale is favorited to win the World Series MVP, followed by Mookie Betts, and then it's a tie between Kershaw and Martinez, and then it's Machado to round out the top 5.
All right, so Justin, why don't you go first?
I mean, I'm a diehard Yankees fan, but you just look at everything. I honestly think the Red Sox are going to win this series. I think it has the potential to be a long series, but like 6 or 7 games. I'm probably going to say 6 right now, but I think it's Sox in 6, and it's probably going to be because of, you know what? I'm going to take a flyer here. I think Jackie Bradley Jr. has himself another big series, and just what he does with the glove, and maybe he just gets another clutch hit or 2. That's all it takes. Just one big clutch hit that could really turn the series around. I think that could do it for him.
Vin?
So mine might. I'm gonna go Red Sox in 5 actually. So I don't think it's gonna be as long as a series as many people think. I think Chris Sale is gonna shut down this series. I mean, he's pitched pretty well in the postseason so far. He's gonna start game 1. They're probably gonna start him game 4. So I think he's going to have 2 very good starts. That's going to put
Boston if it goes to 6 or 7.
And I feel like he'll throw 7. He'll
Yeah.
be lined up for 7, but he could probably appear 6 if they need him.
Yeah, no, I could definitely see them bring him out of the bullpen like late, like as like an 8th, 7th, 8th guy.
Oh, of course.
Like if they're up and that's going to clinch them,
very
they're going to bring
Madison-
him in before they bring Kemba.
Very Madison Bumgarner-esque.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or even what Clayton Kershaw did in the NLCS Game 7.
Exactly.
But yeah, I think the Red Sox, they're going to hit off of the Dodgers pitching. Their bullpen's fatigued, as John was saying earlier. They looked a little taxed. I mean, they're just coming off of 7 games. The Red Sox had 6, but they had a little bit of extra time to rest.
Yeah.
So I think that's going to be a difference maker.
All right. Well, I guess it is my turn. Before I go into this, I want everyone to know that this is water because you're going to probably question it with what I'm about to say.
I'm drinking water too, so.
I'm taking Red Sox in 7. David Price winning World Series MVP.
Oh, good thing you didn't choose him to bust.
I think that he is going to come out and he's going to do something we haven't seen. I think he has the chance to prove everyone wrong, and I want to see him do it so badly. I'd love to see him. I'd love to see him win Game 2. I think they might lose Game 1, to be honest. I don't want them to, but I think they could. I could see Price then coming in, ends up. I don't know if he gets the win. I think he could pitch 4 or 5 good innings, and then they go to the bullpen, which has pitched a lot better than I think a lot of people have expected from Boston. And then, he probably comes in again for Game 5, and if they go that far, I think he could get another solid start. I know it sounds crazy to think that he could, but with everything that's been going on with Sale, what if this flu acts up again? What if it does? I don't want it to. I think an injury changing this series would be absolutely terrible. But I feel crazy for saying it, but I honestly think David Price could be the guy that makes the difference in this series because I feel like the Red Sox – the reason I'm not picking a hitter is because I feel like there could be so many Red Sox hitters that are all doing it that there's not one standout guy.
Yeah.
So for that reason, I think it's going to be a pitcher. I don't think anyone in their bullpen has – when's the last time you saw a bullpen guy really do it?
Yeah, I don't think I trust anyone in their bullpen enough to really. I mean, I have been wrong before, and I will be wrong again. But I just don't really believe in the Boston bullpen to really win them a series right now.
My biggest fear, honestly, is that we are all once again picking Boston.
Yeah, I was gonna bring that up. How we haven't done very good when we universally pick a team.
Whenever we all universally pick a team, I'm pretty sure they've lost.
So congratulations, Los Angeles.
Yeah, congratulations, Los Angeles Dodgers.
Congrats on the sweep.
Yeah, it's probably going to be the guys I dislike the most too that do it, Bellinger and Machado, and then Machado's going to leave or something.
Machado's going to bat 1,000 with 40 home runs.
Oh God, listen, honestly, it sounds insane because you guys are both Yankees fans, but I think all of us kind of want to see the Red Sox do well because they've done so much to get here. You look at the Dodgers, they really haven't had that hard a road to get here.
Well, I mean, to argue that, they were 16 and 18 at one point.
Yeah, because Dave Roberts is a terrible manager.
Well, I'm just saying they had a little bit of a tough road at one point. They barely made the playoffs.
Well, once they got to the postseason, I mean.
Oh, yeah.
They got to coast through the Braves, who just weren't ready yet. And then they got to play the Brewers, who they're a small market team. They just got outmanned, in my opinion. Now the Dodgers are facing, their toughest challenge yet. I think Boston getting some preparation by facing such good teams early is actually going to help them because they face the Yankees, who are a lot like the Dodgers in a lot of ways. A lot of young players that
a home run savvy team.
What?
Home run hitting team.
Exactly.
Yeah.
They're a home run hitting team. I think the way the Dodgers win this series is by being a small ball team, if they can. Because, you look at the games that they won. Yes, they had that back-breaking 3-run home run in Game 7, but remember that what was it, Game 5 that went? Was Game 5 the really long game, or was that Game?
Yeah, I believe it was Game 5 off the top of my head.
You look at that game, and
5.
you saw the fact that how they win that game by getting back-to-back doubles from Machado and then Bellinger, and then Bellinger ends up winning championship series MVP. I think if they can get a good series out of Bellinger I think that's going to be huge for them. I think Machado, we all kind of know what he's going to do, unless Boston hits him every time he comes up to the plate.
I mean, I think Machado's honestly coming out there just because he's hated the Red Sox since when he was on the Orioles. I think he sees the Red Sox as the big bad guy.
Yeah.
And he knows what he can do. And historically, he has destroyed them.
Yeah.
He's everyone. Even against Sale, I'm pretty sure he has really good numbers.
And that's what scares me with Price, because
exactly.
Price alone has had those, when he faces those guys in the division, like you saw with Gary Sanchez, it just murdered him. I'm going out on a limb here, hoping he can do it, but I feel like my heart is saying Red Sox, but in my brain, I feel like I'm expecting it to be the Dodgers, just because they have so much talent that if it's anyone else besides Dave Roberts, I don't think I'm picking the Red Sox, which sounds crazy, but let's.
You really hate Dave Roberts.
He's made me hate him. I don't I'm sure he's a great guy. It's just I can't agree with the managing decisions he makes. I think
he made back-to-back World Series.
I don't think it's because of him. I think it's in spite of him.
And I think they're going to exercise his option because I think he's only getting paid $1.3 million right now.
I mean,
yeah, they're going to exercise his option.
Be honest. Did he single-handedly lose them the World Series last year by keeping in Kenley Jansen for as long as he did? In my opinion, he did.
I mean, yeah, you could argue that, but you could.
That was a really back and forth series. So I think that one there was some times he could have won it there, but he made some questionable moves. But that's kind of his MO.
I feel like this is what it's very similar to when you have a toddler and you give him all of the toys, and you're like, okay, now pick 5, and he just keeps scrambling, going, no, I changed my mind, I want a different one.
He is tampering with his lineup, in the league.
Yeah, he's
that collusion.
Dave Roberts changes his lineup more often than I change my socks, and I change my socks twice a day.
Oh, I was going to question that one.
I think part of Dave Roberts' mentality is that he knows he has a good team, so he feels that he can take some chances because he thinks his team is good enough to, in spite of whatever move he makes. Just rise above it, and if they're down, just keep going for it. Which I see, but it's a fault.
What he's done is he's really leaned into the matchups and the analytics. But the problem is, you can lean into that as much as you want, but some of the moves you just you see Brian Dozier, what he was doing in that one game. He's their only true second baseman, and he had, I believe, a home run, a double, and a stolen base. He was playing out of his mind, and Dave Roberts ends up taking him out. I mean, when you look at that, you just got to question, what are you doing,
man? Yeah. So just before we end this episode, there's a quick few little stats and tidbits I wanted to throw at you guys. And I don't know if you guys read or seen any of these. So the last time these two franchises played against each other, do you guys know the year?
I couldn't tell you.
1916. And a very notable player actually pitched in that World Series. George Herman Ruth.
I knew it. If you would have given me a chance to guess, Vin, I was gonna guess, but you didn't give me my chance.
I didn't want you to guess it. This is my part.
Yeah, Babe Ruth, back when he was on the Red Sox, before he went to the Yankees and became super successful.
Also, this is Manny Machado's. It's going to be Manny Machado's 50th game in Boston coming up on tomorrow, game 1. So if you guys don't know, which we talked about before we came on, the World Series, the last game, so game 7, if there is, will be on Halloween.
Yes.
So I don't know if you want to just plan to record November 1st out of us.
Yeah, I think November 1st is a good time to record because that'll be.
And that's a Thursday, so we could throw that in.
Yeah. Sounds good, Vin. So I think that is pretty much our show. Hopefully we haven't jinxed the Red Sox like we've jinxed all these other teams.
Or hopefully we did, because we're Yankees fans.
Please stop, man. I can't have the Dodgers and Dave Roberts accomplish anything that goes against everything I believe in.
Oh, quick. Before, just a yes or no. So don't worry, John.
Okay.
Yes or no, Manny Machado's final game is with a World Series in LA.
But like he leaves after this?
Yes.
Justin?
100% yes.
Yes. He's done.
Since I'm going to agree, but I really want it to be the odd man.
Well, hang on. Then I'll be the odd man because let me explain why I think the Dodgers should do everything they can to re-sign him. Let's say the Dodgers re-sign Machado. You look at how their lineup would be next year if Dave Roberts is not crazy and does all kinds of substitutions. Like, this is how I envision the Dodgers lineup, everyone healthy. You have Yasmani Grandal at catcher, who's been suspect in the postseason, but overall great player. You're going to put Muncy at first, who looked great this year. You're going to put Seager at second because I don't think you shift Machado because he has the stronger arm. So you shift Seager to second base, keep Machado at short. You can interchange those two.
He doesn't even want to play any other position but short.
Well,
so he has
that's
to play
not
short.
what we're getting into. Those two are the middle infield. Then you're going to look at Turner over at third. You put Puig in right, Bellinger in center, and then, whoever you want in left. You can do either Peterson or Kike or what's his name? Chris Taylor. Like, you look at the team they have, it's a very deep team, and a lot of guys like Kike and Taylor both play in the infield at times, which I think is a huge asset. So I think if they're able to re-sign Machado and then get Seager back, they're stronger than they've ever been.
They might be willing to overpay for Machado because here's my reasoning. You gave up your entire farm system to try and win the World Series this year.
I think
if you A, don't win, and B, lose Machado to free agency, that is a lose-lose, and you are the idiots of Major League Baseball at that point.
Plus, Dave Roberts is doing it.
And, I mean, something that you guys didn't bring up, they could package Corey Seager in a deal.
They could.
If they wanted to, because he's a Rookie of the Year, 3-time All-Star, coming off of an injury.
Personally, I think you keep Seager because, playing second base and short, I feel like, some guys can do it, some guys can't. Mm-hmm. But with how much talent that both of them have, I think they certainly could. Mm-hmm. I think if they're able to get Seager back next year and they're able to re-sign Machado, they're going to be even better. They're still going to need pitching, but with that lineup, I don't know how they can possibly be beat in the National League. They're going to be the odds-on favorites, even if they win, even if they lose. Throw everything you can at Machado because you have such a young team that everyone's on such small deals. I think the only ones that are making big money truly are Kershaw, Jansen, and Turner. So you factor out those three guys. Pretty much everyone is young and making less than only making a couple mil. If you're able to sign Machado to one of those big deals, and since they're a big market team, they have the ability to do it. I say throw everything you have at signing him.
Yeah.
And honestly, keep him out there because I don't want him on my team.
All right. Any last thoughts before we ended on the World Series?
Go Sox.
Justin?
Go baseball.
Yeah, I think MLB won on this. They got the two big franchises, East versus West.
Yeah, whether or not you say it's a conspiracy, like we're not going to get into that because that's insane. But this is exactly what I think baseball kind of needed. Two big market teams that everyone knows. Like if you're a casual baseball fan, you know the Red Sox, you know the Dodgers. Even if you aren't a baseball fan, I feel like you know these two franchises just because you see some random kid walking down the hall in a hat. So I think this is great for baseball. I'm hoping for a great World Series. I want 5, 6, 7 games. I don't want it to be short.
Yeah, I want it to go as long as it possibly can. I'm hoping for 7. Honestly, I want to get as much baseball out of this season as I can.
And Justin doesn't have neither of these guys have a rooting interest in it. I only do because I dislike Dave Roberts so much that I have to root against him. Because personally, I feel I could manage this team to a World Series, and I'm the same guy that wants to go with bullpen to pitch every inning every day. So with that, I think there's no other better way to end the show. Follow us on all social media at Long Islander Pod. Please like and subscribe. If you want to follow me on social media, I am at JPotsandPans. If you want to follow Justin, you can follow him at Froley393. And if you want to follow Vin, you can do it at Vin Pensabene on Twitter. And his Instagram is different, but we'll put everything in the description below. Thanks, guys, and we will talk to you later.
Bye.